Good afternoon. This is James from Practical Word Ministries, and we are not doing a normal show today. I will say that I've spent the majority of my energy trying to find a new job. I was let go at my old where I used to work. When corporate said they were cracking down on overtime, they really meant it. And I went in a couple times to take care of some stuff to ensure that the inmates would be allowed to go to church service, and I got slammed for it pretty hard. So, what I want to do today is talk and be a little bit more personal, more speaking from the heart rather than speaking from up here. I grew up, most Americans have seen the I Have a Dream speech, and understand that Dr. King really was the spearhead of something huge. You can't claim to be a Christian, really, in my opinion, and hold on to racist thoughts. Now, I'm going to read something from Matthew 22. And most Christians know this passage. Jesus was asked what's the most important law, or what's the greatest commandment in the law, and this was his response. This is verse 37 to 40. Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." The problem we had in our country for many, many years is that people in certain areas of the country were conditioned to think of African Americans as not human, or less than human, or as servants, or if we just keep them on the other side of town, we don't have to deal with them, then we'll be okay. And that kind of mentality skews and colors how you see the scriptures. If you have this core belief that somehow white people are better than people of color, you won't see somebody who's different than you as being your neighbor. But Jesus, of course, in the parable of the Good Samaritan, talked about how the Samaritan was actually the one that cared about the person who had been attacked, because he actually got down and picked him up, put him on his donkey, took him into town, paid for the inn, paid for him to get well, or to get treatment. During my time in the military, I've served with a wide variety of people. I'm talking African Americans, Hispanics, people with Asian background, literally people from California to Carolina and everywhere in between. And most people want the same things in life. They want to be able to work hard, take care of their family. They want to be able to do fun things when they get off work. I mean, that's the whole point of working, is that you earn money so that you can enjoy your life. And I believe that Dr. King wanted that for all people to have a chance. There was a reason why he was in Memphis the night he was shot, and the reason he was there is because he was defending the rights of the guys that haul garbage. Now, these folks felt like they weren't getting paid a decent wage, and they were on strike, and he was there to support them. So I understand, that we have not achieved Dr. King's dream yet. I don't understand what it feels like to be discriminated based upon race. I can tell you as a kid that I was discriminated against based upon social status. And when you don't have nice clothes and you don't have nice shoes, some of the kids that do will make fun of you. I understand that a little bit. I have no idea what it feels like to be discriminated against based upon the color of my skin. What I do understand is what this scripture just said, that I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself. It does not say that my neighbor has to look like me, act like me, think like me, or believe what I believe. It doesn't say any of that. And that's the point that Dr. King, I believe, was really trying to make. Can we live in harmony with one another even if we don't agree on everything, and even though we don't look alike? And I believe we can. And that's the whole point of the holiday. That's the whole point of honoring Dr. King's legacy. It's because he believed in that. That one day his kids would be able to play with kids who were white, who were Hispanic, who were from Asia, from wherever. We've come a long way when it comes to how we treat people with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities. We used to put people with those disabilities in large institutions. Now we use group homes. We provide assistance when needed. But we still have a ways to go. We still have a long way to go. How do we get there? Well, you have to give people opportunities to succeed. And so that's why I have, for the last 9 years, contributed to promoting the Martin Luther King Day celebration here in Stillwater. Yes, I live in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I don't really want the video to be about me, but there's going to be a lot of personal stuff in here, so I can't avoid it. In 2010, I was a chaplain candidate. I was exploring possibility of going back in the military as a chaplain, and I had the opportunity to go to Fort Leavenworth to learn how to do prison ministry. And it was a great month. 30 days, got to be up there, was on active duty orders. It was a lot of fun. But it was in January, and obviously today is a federal holiday. So I got to go that night to a Martin Luther King Day celebration there in Leavenworth, Kansas. It was off post. And what I discovered really just blew my mind. There were 100 people there, and I swear only 5 of us were white. And I was one of them. It was a UCC minister, and there were a couple other people. And as much as I don't agree with some of the liberal denominations in America, I will say the one thing they do well is speak out against racism. So I made a vow that when I got back to Stillwater, I would do something about this. I would participate. Well, 2 weeks later, after I got home, 2 weeks after that, there was an announcement made in the Stillwater News Press saying that the city would no longer pay for the Martin Luther King Day celebration, even though it was considered a cultural event. So Mount Zion Baptist kind of took that over, and I was still in seminary at the time. So what I did was I offered to promote the event as best I could. I didn't have a big budget, obviously. So what I did was I took the flyer, made copies, and I took it around to every church in Stillwater, and then called them. We get about, there's almost 60 if you count the churches on the edges of town. We get about 30 a year that show up. We have roughly about 300 people. I would definitely like to see more come. I've been doing this now for 9 years. I did it initially as a student project, but it's become more to me because the longer I've been doing this, the more I've gotten to know some of the people, especially those at Mount Zion Baptist. The more I can see their heart, the more I can see their passion to really end racism in this country. And the conclusion that I've come to is that the only way that we're actually going to end racism, hear me out, this is huge. The only way you can end racism is if you intentionally, purposely make friends with someone who's different than you are. If everyone were to do that, then we would end racism. Here's why. It's not when you are discriminating against those people, whoever those people are, you don't have a connection with them, you don't you can stigmatize them, you can call them names because you don't have an emotional connection with them. When I think of Reverend Calvin Miller, I don't think of him as well, he's just one of the black ministers here in town. I don't think of him like that. I think of him as a friend. Hey, that's Pastor Calvin. He's one of the most godly men I know. And I care about him a lot. That's the connection that we have to... It has to be more than just up here. I know racism is wrong. It's got to be in here. It's got to be from the heart. And until that happens, we're always going to have some element of racism in America. There's a reason why we're having such a divide politically. It's because we're not just sitting down and listening to other people. We're not. You know, I would love to sit down with Nancy Pelosi and just sit down for 10 minutes and just start the conversation off with, so why do you feel so strongly about not building a wall? And just let her talk. I don't have to agree with a word she says. I just want to let her talk. And then, at the end, when she's done talking, I'll say, can I share with you why I'm wanting a wall? And then we can actually have a conversation and come together and try to find common ground. Same thing goes with racism. Why do certain people feel so negatively about, I should say, are certain white people so have such negative feelings about people of color? A lot of times it's because they had a negative experience with someone else who happened to be a person of color, and they are attributing that person's negative characteristics onto all people of color. That's not fair. That's not right. You know, let's just pretend It could go both. Let's just, like the stereotypes. We have to really work hard to get rid of these things. Why is it, for example, that we just assume that all Asian kids are smart? That's not necessarily a negative stereotype, but it is a stereotype. Why do we, I used to, when I was in 5th and 6th grade, be one of the fastest kids. We used to have these drills with multiplication cards. And I used to be really good. I was one of the best in the class. And then Scott showed up. He just happens to be Asian. And he beat me every time. Do I attribute that characteristic to all people who are Asian? That's a stereotype, and we got to get rid of that stuff. And believe me, you will not have positive experiences with everybody that you meet. But here's the thing, and this goes back to my faith. Can we give people the grace to say, that person may have cut me off, but maybe they're in a hurry. Or that person's scowled at me and was kind of rough with me. Maybe they're having a rough day. Or my boss is angry. Maybe he just had to deal with an unruly employee, someone else, and now he's bringing that anger into this situation. You see, the truth is, we all want grace for us, but when someone wrongs us, we want justice. And that goes for, and when we have a bad experience with somebody, if they have a different color skin, or if they have a different background, then all of a sudden we put all the negative attributes of this one person onto the entire group. And my friends, that's not okay. And I believe that's what Dr. King would tell us today. I do have something else I want to share, and it has absolutely nothing to do with today being Martin Luther King Day. It's just goes back to what I said earlier. I am out of work. Now, I do believe that one day this ministry, that I will have an office, that I will be traveling the country, and I will be teaching the Bible. I do believe that, I shouldn't despise the day of small beginnings. Almost forgot the verse. But here's the deal. What happened at my last employment, what happened at the prison, was partly my fault. I don't believe I should have been fired for it, but it is what it is. And I have applied to several places where I feel that I am in this journey is I feel that I should be on staff somewhere at a larger church. I feel like I need to be mentored, trained up, where I could learn from somebody who's been in ministry longer than I have. No, I don't claim to know it all. I never will know it all. I will say this. Before I head on the road and start preaching and teaching, I probably need to be on staff somewhere for a couple of years and learn from others. It's just where I'm at. So, I'm going to link this video to, I'm going to put a link to this video on Twitter and send it to a few folks, and I hope that they actually watch it. And I'm just making the plea. I need I just don't need a job. I need to be at a place where I can learn and grow as a minister. And quite frankly, I have a family to take care of. So, any prayers that God will open up a door for me would be greatly appreciated. And, wow, it's only 24 after. So, I told you it'd be a short video. I did tell you that, well, let me put it this way. If you don't live in Stillwater, Oklahoma, if you live somewhere else, please look around. I guarantee you somewhere, if it's not being done at the community level, it's probably at one of the more traditionally African American churches. You got your Missionary Baptist, you have your Church of God in Christ. Look around your city. There's probably a Martin Luther King Day celebration somewhere. And I promise you, if you go to it, it will really wake you up and help you to see just exactly the kind of impact that Dr. King has made on this country and how much work we still have to do to fully achieve his dream. So, anyway, I hope that you have a great day. We will talk about Romans 9 next week, God willing. And I hope you have a great week. Take care and God bless. Bye.